Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. It is Mailbag Day. I am at Williamson NFL. Give me a follow there. Check out my YouTube page. Just post there all the time as well. Great comments from you guys in that area. So some really good mailbag questions. I probably won't get to all of them, but I might carry some over to other days if needed. But Naz has been a great contributor to the show. Thank you. Asked two good questions back to back. We're going to start there. How much better does the defense get with Corey Trice and Montravius Adams back in the lineup? We'll start there. I think you guys know I'm a big Adams fan. I am also quite skeptical of Benton being a nose. So I think with Adams back in the mix, you can flirt with Benton doing more Ogunjobi, Cam Hayward type stuff in nickel and dime, maybe even in base. You could put a big package together with all four of them on the field. I'm stretching there. I don't think that's going to happen unless it's short yardage. But if I can get 20 to 25 snaps out of Adams, quality snaps, which I think he's shown is right up his alley, then he's somebody I'd like to keep around. I do think that has a ripple effect for Benton in particular, and one that I like quite a bit. As for Trice, this one, you hope you don't see a lot of them. I mean, probably would only be out there in dime. And as bad as Sutton looked his first game back, he looks like he's rounding into shape a little bit more. And why I bring Sutton up is if you were to have an outside corner injury to Jackson or Porter, I always thought Sutton would be that replacement. Now, watching him early in his return, I thought, oh no, he cannot handle those duties. I don't have a strong opinion now one way or another on that. But he would be in the mix at least. He'd at least be considered, I would think. Now, that's what I'm projecting Trice as, though, is he would be your third outside-only corner. I don't want any of those guys being the slot. I think that you're going to see Sutton as the slot. He outsnapped Trice by quite a bit, or Bishop by quite a bit in the slot this past week. But here's what I want to find out about Trice in particular. Jackson's a free agent after the year. Even if it's just practice, can Trice project to be the starter opposite Porter next year? Be much cheaper. I like Jackson, and I would consider bringing him back. But I'm certainly not married to the idea. And corners that have a lot of starting snaps are going to get expensive on the open market, and usually that's not a great way to invest your money. So over the next, month, two, who knows how long they're still, practicing and, in this thing, I would love to get a really good bead, and maybe they already do. Can Trice be my starter, or could he even just compete with a second round pick to be the starter opposite Porter? I'd love to know that answer, right or wrong. Just knowing that answer would make a lot of difference into how interested am I in re-signing Jackson. A lot of offseason stuff you guys are bringing up here is good stuff, because Naz also asked, do you think Najee comes back next season, and do you think Khan made a mistake not re-signing him in the offseason? I don't want to get too deep into the fifth-year option stuff. I think you could see both sides. I think the system is flawed in the NFL, because the day you have to make that decision, it's really hard to put a fifth-year option on a running back. I know Harris has been extremely durable, but if he blows his knee out in week 1, you're on the hook for a whole nother year after that. Like, it's kind of dumb. You're forcing me to make a decision and project the future. And frankly, I know some people think that, well, if they would have got him on the fifth-year option, he'd be a much less cap hit next year. Probably not true. Because as you guys know, when you sign a new contract, usually that first year is very cap friendly. But 2 years from now would spike and be expensive. My hunch, I lean towards no, because two reasons. He's older. Well, several reasons. He's older than you think. He's really taken a pounding. But to his credit, he is unbelievably durable and unbelievably reliable. And there's a lot of merit to that. And I bet Tomlin in particular really values that, which I totally understand. Not to mention his competitiveness and his physical style and, frankly, how well he's playing. But to me, just the business side of things, I don't want to be giving him Ramondre Stevenson money or better. And we're talking like $11 million, $12 million a year, I would think he comes asking for. That bothers me because his age, his wear and tear, he's not a special player. But the biggest thing is, I think you guys know me well enough that when a draft provides a position that is very plentiful, which running back is to a massive degree this year, I want to position myself to do that. And frankly, I'm not a big investing running back guy to begin with. So I think there's a good chance he's back. If it was up to me, I would lean towards no. There's just going to be a lot of draft options. You could get a third-round running back in this draft that would more than do the trick and be much cheaper and maybe more talented and certainly younger. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Real good question from Joey Bag of Donuts, who also is a big contributor. Why has Connor Hayward had such a bad year? Now, I'm sure there's some people out there going, if his last name was Connor Williamson or Connor Bag of Donuts, that he would even be on the team. Maybe. I'm not going to say that that's not possible. But I do want to get this out of the way. He is one of your best special teamers. I don't think he's at the Killebrew Matakevich level, but he is one of your core 5 special teamers, and that in itself has value. I've been rough on him as an offensive player, and I can handle how they've used him of late. His snap counts keep going down. If you're going to play with a fullback, he's the best one you got. If you want an extra tight end, a 4th tight end, a 3rd tight end, depending what you're trying to do, I'm fine with it. But I like under 10 snaps a game. But here's the deal, and this is true at a lot of positions, and I warn you guys around draft time to be careful of this stuff. Remember Isaiah Simmons coming out of Clemson? I think he was the 9th pick in the draft. All the draft nicks are telling us this guy can be a free safety. He can be a slot corner. He can be a strong safety. He can be a linebacker. He's that talented. Okay, but what is he? When he gets here, where does he go every day? What is his number one position? Because doing one of those is hard. It's like majoring in physics and poetry and 3 other things, whatever. Poetry is a bad example. But so where I'm going with this is Hayward is, yeah, he could get you out of the game as a running back, but he's not good at it. By NFL standards for running backs, yeah, he could play some fullback, but I'd much rather have Dan Kreider. You know what I mean? Yeah, he can play tight end, but he's 6 feet tall and can't block edge defenders. Yeah, he runs routes well. Pretty well, and is good after the catch. Yeah, but he's not a special mover. If you're the jack of all trades, master of none, and you're ranking it on a scale from 1 to 10, and he's between a 2 and a 4 in all those categories, and a guy on the sideline is a 7, well, then you're not better. You know what I mean? Versatility is great, but not if you don't have the fastball. You know what I mean? I think you guys know what I'm getting at here. Rob Marcico asks a really good question here too. Am I crazy for wanting a guard high next year, like round 2? This was the first game Russ had time, and albeit against a bad secondary, he carved them up. Ciamalu's on the last year of a deal and older. McCormick encouraging, but not elite. With an elite guard, I could see us being the Lions. Easy. I mean, the Lions are the best offense in the league with the best offensive line in the league. So I see where you're going, Rob, but let's not, I don't know if they're going to be number one. So here's how I see that. First off, it's worth noting James Daniels, who you didn't mention, is a free agent. I think he will walk, and I think he'll get paid more than he should. Good for him. I mean, he's still young. He has a lot of experience. I don't think coming off the injury is going to hurt him. I don't think he'll be in the equation. I think McCormick will be your right guard, maybe for the next decade. Okay. So that brings us to left guard. Siamalu is not a free agent after this year. He has another year on top of that. He is older. He has a lot of leadership skills, though, and we know that this franchise values that rightfully so. I mean, he is the top dog in the offensive line room. That being said, I bet Frazier and the other dudes will learn to lead themselves here before long. You know, I mean, I can live without that. Now, I'm not suggesting you cut Siamalu because his cap hit isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And he's had a very up and down season. I thought he had a disappointing game this past week. I'm a fan of his game, but I think he's well into the back nine. I mean, he's on hole 15 or whatever, and he's had some injuries, doesn't practice on Wednesday. That's not uncommon for, you know, any veteran his age, though. But what about this option? You bring back Herbig to pair him with his brother, because he could be my left guard and I wouldn't cry about it, but I'd rather he's my swing interior guy and depth, you know, I mean, keep him on the fold. He's not going to cost you much. Cool. Re-sign Dan Moore, and that won't be cheap, but he's a starting left tackle. And then what do you do with Fautanu? He either could compete with Jones at right tackle, or maybe he's your left guard. And this is an unfair comparison because this guy's one of the best that's ever done it. But that was Zach Martin coming out of Notre Dame. Yeah, he could be a really good tackle, but he might be one of the best guards in the league. So I would be interested in that strategy. And I think you could probably get like a 5th round pick for Siamalu. You know, like there's a lot of teams out there playing with much worse guards than him. So if I could get him off the books, pick up a pick, give his money and more to Moore, bring back Herbig, you still have McCollum, you know, I mean, he's worth being on the team at a minimal, and maybe use a 3rd or 4th round pick on an offensive lineman. Either a true tackle, if you're married to Fautanu being a guard, or a guard / tackle, or a guard, or a project, or somebody of that nature. That's, I think, the way I would like to handle it. And maybe all those things aren't as easy as they sound, but I don't think it's all that hard to pull off. Good stuff, though. What do we got here? Michael Bradley asks, it seems like Herbig plays more 9 technique than Highsmith does, or am I just imagining that? I don't know. I've never thought about it. I've never looked at their exact alignments. And what he's talking about is how far away from the tackle you align, you know, and you're, you know, coming off the ball. But I think that I think you're onto something. I mean, Highsmith is a bigger human being than Herbig. He's thicker. He's more of a power player. He can, you know, stunt inside and deal with guards and tackles better than Herbig. Not necessarily better, but in different manner. He's a more physical player. So I would imagine the defensive coaching staff is having Herbig align a little wider than they would Highsmith. And frankly, Preston Smith would be the tightest of all of them. I mean, and maybe it's just down to, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole what's a 7 technique, what's a 5 technique, etc. But maybe it's even just 6 inches more. You know, like, yeah, you're both 9 techniques, but he's 6 inches closer to the ball, you know, the bigger guys. I think you're onto something. What else do we got here? We got a bunch of them here. Cole asked, the Steelers have been averaging over 28 points a game with Wilson as starter. Is there any way they can let him leave as a free agent? I would be shocked at this point if he is not the Steelers' opening day starter, that he doesn't sign a 2 or 3 year deal. I know he doesn't need the money, but you're going to have to pay him market rate or at least 90% of that. I know his wife's super wealthy and he's made a ton, blah, blah, blah. But you're not going to pay him $1 million. I mean, like, he's not going to take the biggest hometown discount ever. So you're going to have to give him substantial starter money. I would be shocked if they look at it and say, well, we're going to go back to the draft and a bad quarterback draft. And unless it's a bring in Wilson, draft a guy to sit. See, but I think that's more next year's project, not this upcoming draft, the draft from now. You know, Wilson's your guy. Maybe even Fields as a backup. I don't think that's crazy again. And draft one a year from now. I bet that's a direction that they're going and the way that they're looking at this. So, I think that that's something isn't money in the bank. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but it sure seems like team and player are very happy with one another. And at this stage of his career, I don't know that he's going to be looking for a money grab or you really want to go to the Giants or, you know, some losing organization at this point, and kind of did that with Denver and it didn't work out. So I think he'll be back. All right, everyone. I will be back tomorrow. Over and out.